My stepdaughter filed a false CPS report to get me out so her toxic grandma could take over our home. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I've been married to my wife, Lana, she's 35, for about a year now. Before tying the knot, we were together for 2 solid years. Lana has a teenage daughter from her previous marriage, a 16-year-old named Becca. Let's just say, Becca and I don't exactly get along. Lana's been divorced for around 6 years. Her marriage ended after she caught her ex-husband cheating with a co-worker in their own bedroom, no less. That was the final straw in what had been a 7-year marriage. They'd been together since their college days and even had a child together, so it completely blindsided her. After that, Lana took a long break from dating. She stayed single for years, not trusting love anymore, until we met. We bumped into each other at a mutual friend's party, and we hit it off right away. I ended up asking her out, and she took a leap of faith, choosing to give love and men a second chance. I'll always be grateful for that. We started seeing each other regularly, and over time, things got serious. Somewhere around the 7 or 8 month mark, she introduced me to her daughter. Now, I really tried to be kind to Becca in the beginning. I put in the effort, tried to connect, but it was tough. She seemed to hate me from day one. She was constantly cold, shut me out whenever I tried to talk, and made it clear she wanted nothing to do with me. Sometimes she'd walk out of the room the moment I walked in. After a while, the rejection wore me down. Eventually, I sat down with Lana to talk about it. She told me that Becca had never really dealt with the divorce in a healthy way. Apparently, Becca still clung to the hope that her parents might get back together someday. Lana and her ex shared custody, but because of his demanding work schedule, Becca mostly stayed with Lana during the week and only spent weekends at her dad's. Lana's dad passed away when she was young, so after that, her mom, my mother-in-law, Kathy, moved in with her to help out. So for most of her life, it's just been Lana, Becca, and Kathy. And honestly, Kathy doesn't like me either. While she's not as openly hostile as Becca, her attitude is still cold and unfair, considering I've never done anything to hurt them. The only crime I've committed is marrying Lana. Both Kathy and Becca seem to think Lana should have forgiven her ex and tried to fix the marriage. They haven't accepted that she moved on, and because I'm part of that new chapter in her life, I'm somehow the villain. They've decided I'm the one who stopped Lana from going back to her ex, and they've never forgiven me for it. It doesn't seem to matter to them that the guy cheated on her in the worst way possible. That piece of the puzzle just gets ignored. Over time, I learned to accept that they'd never warm up to me. No matter how kind I was or how much I tried to be respectful and supportive, nothing changed. In their eyes, I was the man who made sure Lana didn't reunite with her ex, and for some reason, that makes me the bad guy. Still, despite all of that, Lana and I chose to move in together. Against the odds, we stuck it out. I don't talk to Kathy anymore, and I do my best to avoid her. If she visits our place, I usually just leave the room. I'd rather not deal with her at all. I can't do the same with Becca, of course, since we live under the same roof, but I try to keep my distance. It's not the most ideal arrangement, but it keeps the peace. Before anyone jumps in to blame Lana for how Becca turned out, let me just say my wife has done everything she possibly could to guide her daughter and teach her to be respectful. But sometimes, some kids just don't want to change. Becca, unfortunately, is one of them. She's self-centered and mean. And every time Lana tries to set boundaries or discipline her, Becca throws the divorce back in her face and blames her for everything even though she knows the truth. When that happens, Lana just breaks. She can't handle fighting with her daughter like that, and she ends up in tears. I usually have to be the one to comfort her afterward. So at some point, we just decided it was better for Becca and me to keep our space. I couldn't bear to watch Lana let her daughter treat her like that. She already went through so much trying to heal after the divorce, especially since she had zero support from her mom, who kept pushing her to forgive the man who cheated on her. To make things worse, Kathy actually convinced Becca that her mom should have gone back to her ex. And since they were all living together back then, Lana didn't really have a way to stop those ideas from taking root. Ironically, her ex-husband never once said he wanted to reconcile. He seemed pretty content staying out of her life and Becca's, too. So I have no clue why Kathy and Becca were so convinced he wanted her back. Back then, Lana couldn't afford to move out and live on her own. She wasn't earning enough yet and needed her mom's help. As for me, I've never tried to discipline Becca or act like her dad. I know I'm not, and I've made peace with that. Honestly, I think Lana handled everything the best she could. She picked herself up and made something of her life. The least Becca and I could do was try not to make things harder for her. So we tried to maintain a fragile truce after they moved in. Becca didn't magically become sweet or friendly, but she did ease up a little. Even that small change felt like a win. Things were okay, well, tolerable until about a week ago. That's when something happened that threw me off completely. Becca came up to me while Lana was out of the house. She said she needed to talk. Said it was something serious. And that was definitely not what I expected. Like I said before, Becca and I pretty much kept our distance and didn't talk unless absolutely necessary. So when she came to me wanting to talk, I was surprised, but I told her to go ahead. That's when she said something that completely caught me off guard. She wanted her grandmother, Kathy, to move in with us. Now, I know some families might have jumped at the idea, maybe even felt proud that the kid was thinking about her aging grandparent. But not me. Not even close. Because in my eyes, Kathy was doing just fine. There was nothing wrong with her health, she didn't need help with anything. So it was obvious to me that Becca was just using that as an excuse. It was pretty transparent, she wanted Kathy in the house so the two of them could tighten their grip on Lana and me. Becca knew Lana's soft spot for family would keep her from saying no, and this was just another sneaky way for them to try and drive a wedge between Lana and me. That's the only thing that made sense, and honestly, I didn't even need to think twice before I shot the idea down. I told Becca she was more than welcome to go visit her grandmother whenever she liked, but there was no way Kathy was moving in with us. That was a hard no, and I wasn't about to change my mind. She gave me a look full of venom, but she didn't push the issue any further, which struck me as strange. Normally, she would have made a huge scene, thrown a tantrum, something. But this time, she just let it go. I figured maybe I'd gotten lucky, didn't think too much of it. The very next day, though, she hit back in the most unhinged way imaginable. That evening, out of nowhere, CPS showed up at our door. I was blindsided. They said they needed to check Becca's room because someone had reported that I was starving her and emotionally abusing her. Yep, she'd actually called Child Protective Services and made up a bunch of lies about me. Of course, none of it was true. And it didn't take long for the truth to come out, because Becca didn't even bother to cover her tracks. Her room was full of snack wrappers and fast food bags, so much for starving. Lana and I explained everything to the officers, and they saw through the whole thing. They gave Becca a serious warning and then left us alone. But the damage was already done. I was absolutely livid. That was the final straw for me. I'd held back so much for Lana's sake, tried to be patient and understanding, but this crossed every line. I blew up at Becca. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I let her have it, every bit of frustration, anger, and disappointment I'd been carrying. I told her exactly how I felt. And to be honest, I don't think many people would have lasted as long as I did in my position. I tolerated her out of love and respect for my wife, but this was too much. I'd always tried to look at her as just a kid acting out, and I even tried to be patient with Lana when she couldn't bring herself to stand up to her daughter. But after this, that patience was gone. Lana was devastated too, but once again, she just crumbled. She couldn't speak, couldn't act. She had another breakdown. And look, I'm not trying to dismiss what she's been through, but at that moment, I needed support. I was the one who had been attacked, falsely accused, humiliated. I couldn't be the strong one again. I needed her to be there for me, just once, but she couldn't. Meanwhile, Becca was enjoying the whole thing. She started yelling that she wished she'd planned it better, so she could have finally gotten rid of me and gone back to living with just her mom and grandma. It was sickening. I was so disgusted and heartbroken by the entire scene that I didn't stick around. I didn't try to comfort Lana. I didn't argue with Becca anymore. I just grabbed my wallet and phone, walked out, got in the car, and drove. I didn't have a plan. I just drove until I ended up at this little bed and breakfast on the outskirts of town. And that's where I've been staying ever since. It's been almost a week now. Since then, Lana's called me a bunch of times. She's been trying to talk, trying to get me to come back so we can figure things out. But I've refused. I think I have every right to. I told her straight up, I can't live in the same house as Becca anymore. Not after this. I don't trust her. There's no way to know what she'll do next. Yeah, she's only 14. I get that. But age doesn't excuse what she did. What she pulled wasn't just a prank, it was dangerous. If she'd thought it through just a little more, she might have succeeded. And I could have ended up in jail over nothing. That's a risk I'm not willing to take. I told Lana that I've had enough. I respect what she's been through, I really do. But I've reached my breaking point. Becca may have failed this time, but next time she might get it right, and that terrifies me. So I gave Lana an ultimatum. Either Becca moves out, goes to live with her grandmother or father, or I'm not coming back. I know it puts Lana in a tough spot, and I hate that. But I can't live like this anymore. I've done nothing to deserve the treatment I've gotten, and I refuse to keep being punished by her daughter and mother while Lana breaks down and I'm left to clean up the emotional mess. This isn't the life I imagined when I said I do. And I won't go back to it. I told her plain and clear she can choose to send Becca away and come live with me, or she can move back in with Kathy like before. If she chooses the latter, I'll file for divorce. As hard as that would be for both of us, it feels like the only real option at this point. It's been a couple of days since I laid that out for her, and she's still trying to convince me to come back and talk things through. We've been in touch, calls, texts, but I haven't told her where I am. I'm staying firm. If she can't guarantee that Becca won't be under the same roof with me, then I'm not coming back. That's non-negotiable. She's free to visit her daughter, talk to her, even stay with her. But I won't live with Becca ever again. Last night, we got on the phone and started circling the same arguments again. Once again, I tried to lay things out for Lana as gently as I could. I told her I understood that Becca didn't want to live with me any more than I wanted to live with her. We'd both been enduring this uncomfortable situation for her sake, trying to keep the peace, but now, Becca had clearly drawn a line. That CPS stunt proved she wasn't willing to live like this anymore, and I told Lana it was time she had to choose. One of us had to go, for everyone's sanity. And just like before, Lana started crying. She said she couldn't make that kind of choice, she loved both of us too much. She told me that she had grown to love me even more than she ever loved her ex-husband and couldn't picture a life without me. I won't lie, hearing that meant a lot. I'd been thinking maybe our relationship was doomed, so it gave me hope. But she also said she couldn't bring herself to let go of Becca either. As awful as her daughter had been acting lately, Lana still remembered the little girl who used to brighten her days during the hardest moments of her life. Even during the divorce, when Becca thought Lana should have gone back to her cheating ex, she still tried to be there for her mom in her own way. So, in Lana's eyes, she couldn't just turn her back on her daughter, not even now. She said she felt completely broken, like she was trying to hold the pieces of her family together while it all kept falling apart. Becca had been pushing her to kick me out, and now I'd given her this ultimatum. She told me she didn't know what to do anymore, and that she felt like she was failing as a mother, and failing as a wife. Hearing her say that really hit me hard. I started feeling guilty, like maybe I'd pushed her into a corner by forcing a decision no one should have to make. I mean, how do you ask someone to choose between their husband and their child? But at the same time, what other choice did I have? I felt just as lost as she did, and that's why I turned to Reddit for help. I really needed some clarity. Update 1. Hey everyone, thanks for all the feedback. I just wanted to clarify something before I go on. A lot of people were being pretty harsh toward Lana, calling her a bad mom or a weak partner. I get where you're coming from, but I feel like some of that criticism misses the full picture. Lana's been through hell and back. Her husband, someone she'd been with for half her life, cheated on her and broke her spirit. Her family didn't back her up. She was left to rebuild everything from scratch with a child in tow and no emotional support. So yes, she's fragile. Yes, she has a hard time confronting conflict. But I know she's aware of that, and I'm aware of it too. I'm not saying it excuses everything, but it does explain why she sometimes falls apart instead of standing up to Becca. That said, I still believe I did the right thing by sticking to my boundaries. The day after I read all your responses, I called Lana. I told her I was sorry that things had gotten to this point, and I truly felt for everything she was going through. But I also reminded her that continuing to live under the same roof as Becca was dangerous for me now, legally and emotionally. I told her I loved her, and I always would, but I needed to protect myself. I made it clear Becca had shown she was capable of doing anything to get what she wanted, and I wasn't going to risk being her next target. I didn't say much more than that, just asked her to think about what the right thing to do was, not just for me, but for all of us. She said she needed time, and I gave it to her. Finally, nearly 2 weeks after I left, I got a call. Lana told me I could come home. Becca had moved out. She was now staying with Kathy. So I went back. And sure enough, she was gone. For the first time in what felt like forever, I walked through that door and actually felt like I could breathe in my own home. Later, Lana and I sat down and had a heart-to-heart. She told me about the conversation she had with Becca a couple of nights before. She'd asked Becca for a simple apology. Just anything that might help me reconsider. But Becca flat out refused. Worse, she said that if she had a second shot, she'd make sure her plan to get rid of me actually worked next time. Lana was stunned. She tried to reason with her, explain how dangerous and hurtful her actions had been, but Becca snapped back. Becca said that if her mom really wanted to stay married to me, she could go ahead, but that she'd still find a way to break us up and reunite her parents. Then she stormed out and spent the night at Kathy's. That same night, Lana called her ex-husband for the first time in years. She asked if Becca could stay with him for a little while just so she could figure things out. That's when she got another shock. Turns out, the guy had moved to the suburbs months ago and hadn't even seen Becca in 4 or 5 months. She'd stopped visiting him ever since he introduced her to his new girlfriend. Lana had no idea. Her ex told her he couldn't take Becca in, not even for a short stay. His girlfriend wasn't comfortable stepping into a parental role, and he didn't want to jeopardize the relationship. That was it. Becca's own dad shut the door on her. After that, Lana called Kathy. And it all started to make sense. Turns out, Becca hadn't been going to her dad's on weekends, she'd been going to Kathy's the whole time. Kathy proudly bragged about how the idea to call CPS was hers, hoping it would get me kicked out so she could move in and rebuild the family. She actually believed that once Lana was single again, her ex-husband would come running back. That was their foolproof plan. And I'm just sitting there thinking, how did someone like Kathy raise someone as decent as Lana? That kind of twisted logic could only come from years of watching too many soap operas. It was delusional, plain and simple. But the scariest part? She was pulling Becca into it, grooming her to be just like her. That's when Lana decided enough was enough. She had to cut her losses and deal with one problem at a time, starting with saving our marriage. So she let Becca stay with Kathy. Keeping her under the same roof clearly wasn't helping anyone. We've decided to go to marriage counseling, and our first session is scheduled for next week. Lana still feels guilty. She thinks she's a terrible mother for letting her daughter go. But honestly, she did what she could. She tried. Sometimes, that's all you can do. Update 2. Just got back from our first counseling session. It went okay. Not perfect, but it's a start. Lana and I are committed to making our marriage stronger, and I really believe we can. I love her deeply, and I know she loves me too. Kathy's furious that I came back and is threatening to throw Becca out if I don't leave again. But Becca? She's not interested in coming back, even with Kathy's threats. The girl's starting to see that the fantasy she was clinging to isn't working out the way she thought it would. Update 3. We brought Becca home today. She didn't say much, just that she had nowhere else to go. Her dad won't take her in, and Kathy kicked her out. She didn't want to be around anyone who chose me over her. Lana's heartbroken that it came to this, but at least Becca gave me a short, somewhat mumbled apology. It wasn't much, but it was something. That small gesture meant more than she probably realized. We're getting her into therapy soon. Honestly, it's long overdue. Not just for her, but for all of us. Thanks to everyone who offered advice and support. It's been a long, painful road, but I'm hopeful. We're finally starting to heal.